week 1, the Texans play on the road at the Rams. I got that as a loss. Matt Stafford may not be in my top 10, but with the addition of Devontae Adams to replace Cooper Kupp, I think the Rams win that game. Then that brings us to week 2 when the Texans host the Buccaneers. Looks like that's on Monday Night Football, and I got the Texans pulling out a win against the Buccaneers. That brings us to week 3, and the Texans play on the road in Jacksonville against the Jaguars, and I got the Texans getting a win because Trevor Lawrence, in all honesty, he had a lot of sky-high expectations, but he just has failed to meet them, and for that reason, C.J. Stroud bouncing back in his 3rd season. I got the Texans winning their 2nd game in a row here. So then that brings us to week 4. The Texans host the Titans, and while Cam Ward is now on the Titans, he's just a rookie. He's just getting started. This game's in Houston. Mako agrees with me that the Texans are going to beat the Titans in week 4 at home. So that brings the Texans to 3-1. So then the Texans play on the road against Baltimore. That's a tough matchup. I think Lamar is going to show CJ what CJ could be one day. But on this day, the Ravens are going to win. The Texans have their 3-game winning streak snapped, so they drop to 3-2. Then the Texans, they play at the Seahawks. This will be an interesting matchup because Sam Darnold is obviously now in Seattle. But I'm not really a believer in Sam Darnold, unfortunately, because I think that he had a lot of success because of Kevin O'Connell. And so I'm going to give the Texans a win here. That brings them to 4-2. Then the Texans host the 49ers. You guys know where my heart lies. I'm going to be biased. I don't care. I'm giving the 49ers a win here. So then that drops the Texans to 4-3. So then the next week, the Texans host the Broncos. I don't know. This one's tough because Bo Nix, he had a good rookie season. But I'm going to say that the Texans at home, they win this one. So that brings the Texans to 5-3. Then the Texans host the Jaguars again. It's a division matchup. If the Texans get the best of the Jaguars early in the season, the Jaguars could steal one later on. But I'm going to roll with the Texans here and say the Texans get to 6-3. Then the Texans play on the road against the Titans. I'm going to show some respect to Cam Ward here, and I'm giving the Titans a win here at home. That gets the Texans to 6-4. Texans the following week are at home against the Bills. That is a real tough matchup. Looks like it's going to be on Thursday Night Football. And I'm going to go with the Bills in this matchup. Reigning MVP, Josh Allen. Even on a short week, I'm going to say that the Bills end up winning here. So then that gets the Texans, I believe, to 6-5, if I'm doing my math correctly. So then the Texans, they play on the road against the Colts. That'll be an interesting matchup. Who's the Colts quarterback? I guess we'll find out by the time that this game comes in week 12 or even week 13 because I haven't been keeping track of buys. Nevertheless, Texans on the road against the Colts in a division matchup. I'm going to give the win to the Texans here, so that brings them to 7-5. Then the Texans play at the Chiefs. Sunday Night Football. That game is going to be tough for the Texans to win, and so I'm going to go with the Chiefs. That brings them to 7-6. Then the Texans are back at home. They host the Cardinals, led by Michael Walker on that defense. And I'm going to go with the Cardinals in an upset here. And so that would bring the Texans to 7-7. So then the Texans, they end up hosting the Raiders. Not really a big believer in the Raiders, even with the addition of Ashton Jeanty. So the Texans win here, get to 8-7. Then the Texans play on the road against the Chargers. I think the Chargers are going to be pretty good this year. And so I got the Chargers winning this one. That brings the Texans to 8-8. I'm surprised I have the Texans at 8-8 at this point, but I'm just looking at the schedule game by game. Then finally, the Texans host the Colts to end the regular season. I'm going to go with the Texans winning this one. So I got the Texans at 9-8. Is that good enough to win the division? Maybe in the AFC South? I guess we'll have to wait and see for the rest of the guys' picks.